Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the CRKT Razelcliffe folder. That's right, that's the name of it, Razelcliffe, maybe Razelcliffe A, probably Razelcliffe folder by CRKT. But actually, before I go any further, I gotta let you know, this guy was sent to me directly by the manufacturer. That's right, CRKT sent this guy along. They said, as always, I told them, as always, I'm talking about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, might be gem, might be junk. They still sent it along. Nonetheless, we do have to assume this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my very best not to let that affect the nature of my review. Next thing, let's do a size comparison real quick. Here it is against, of course, the Spyderco Delica. And so we see here, this is a little tiny dude right here. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2, and here it is against the Spyderco PM2. So not a very large knife here, really at all. And actually, maybe a more meaningful comparison is the ruler, of course, because this guy has a very small blade length, coming in just under or just over 2 inches, depending on how the cop measures and how much they like it. But anyways, there is the size of this guy. This is a relatively small little knife here. So there is that. Next thing, what the heck is a Razel? What's a Razelcliffe for that matter? I mean, I imagine a Razelcliffe is a thing that a Razel would fall off of. It ain't too careful in the American Southwest. Anyways, sorry, there are cliffs elsewhere in the world, but I just know these ones, right? That's a weird diversion. This is a John Graham design. John Graham is an American knife maker out of Tennessee, and this is the Razel blade shape is sort of what he is maybe most famous for, where you have an edge on the bottom here, and then you have a second sharpened edge along the top of this here. So there is a sharpened edge here and a sharpened edge here as well. CRKT has worked with John Graham before. We've gotten pieces like this here, which is their folding Razel pocket knife, and we've also gotten this little guy here, the just plain Razel, which is maybe a more canonical Razel blade shape with the straight and the squared off angle here. But this is probably their best Razel to date, so to speak. So let's go on ahead and, hey, spoiler alert, and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this very interesting little knife right here. So on the good side to start with, this is a very compact knife. I mean, really, it is quite small. If we put this guy next to, like, the Spyderco Delica, we can see here it fits very well within the silhouette of the Delica, even with the flipper tab out. And with a 2-inch or so blade, this is going to be legal in a lot of different places around the world, and as well as in the U.S. here. That's a beautiful thing. And so for a lot of people, this is going to be a very nice little size if you just want a little pocket companion. Next thing, this guy actually has some nice details that I'm not used to seeing from Cricut. One of them is the fact that the screws here for the pocket clip are completely flush, allowing this to be a deep carry clip, which is, by the way, great. It's a nice little clip, but it allows it to, although you can see the clip itself is not recessed, it allows it to slide all the way into that deep carry area, which is great and actually is something that a lot of people get wrong. And so I appreciate that very much. You also see that there's very nice texturing, ranging from this kind of a milled-in texture here to just overall, it feels like it's a pretty well-textured knife. And the backspacer is the other major area where it's evident, but it's a well-textured knife. Next thing, blade on this guy. Blade is a Razel blade shape, which is unusual, certainly, but it's a nice blade shape because you got some flat here, you got a little tiny bit of belly going on up here. You've got your secondary scraping edge, and the knife itself is made of Hcr13 Mov Steel. Now, Hcr13 is not my favorite steel in the world, but the price of this guy is $25. So you know what? I shut up. Amazing. And so that's good. And it also has relatively thin blade stock, which leads to a relatively thin edge. In fact, a very thin edge. And that makes this guy very interesting for actually cutting things, which is good. Next thing, action on this guy. I'm going to put my wrist down here static and then flip. Absolutely 100% it fired. And in fact, if I do it again, it will fire as well. This is a very reliable flipper knife, and that's great. That's really impressive. It's not the smoothest action ever, although I will admit it's getting a little bit smoother as I use it more, as I kind of wear it in and whatnot. But it absolutely, the action is reliable. This knife will deploy using the flipper tab, unassisted, and there is no assist, by the way, but so hence the unassisted bit. But it deploys manually, reliably all the damn time. It's on bearings and whatnot. It's just good to go. And I imagine, like I said, as I use it more, it's just going to get better. So I appreciate very much the nice action on this guy. And then finally, on the good side, the Razel design itself is great. A lot of people go like, why would you want that? Come on, what are you doing here? But in practice, actually, the Razel design is nice because it gives you a couple of things. A, it gives you a very small secondary tip here. It's a little bit less evident on the on this kind of design relative to the kind of canonical Razel here. But you can just, if you're trying to open a box, for instance, you can just dip that very little tip of the knife in there and pull it through. This is the same thing you get with a Wharncliffe style blade, but you also have the ability to push a little bit there. You have a secondary scraping blade, which is very nice for removing, say, little bits of gunk from your your review table. A scraping blade actually can be quite nice, and this is something that, yeah, you can do that with some other pieces, but it just makes it much easier if you've got this flat surface there. I like the Razel blade shape a lot. A lot of people are like, oh my God, why would you carry that? Then they get one, they're like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty nice. And so that's good, and frankly, it's unique. That's a big thing here. There are so many also ran drop point kind of things where it's just like, hey, look, a knife. This is unique. This is its own special thing, and it's a well-known designer who frankly deserves more love in the custom and production knife world. To me at least, that's what's good here, is that the Razel design is great. It's got a nice action, a nice blade, good texturing, flush screws under the clip, and a very compact size. To me, though, what's great about this knife is the price point. It's $25. Now, look, certainly, is it a super high-end knife? No, absolutely not. But the thing is, you absolutely will get good action. You will get decent enough steel. You will get a handle that works. You will get a whole bunch of things. And actually, the ergonomics on it are quite good, too, because you can choke up here. I didn't mention that either. But nonetheless, it is absolutely a fine knife. And the fact that it's $25 puts this in a place where CRKT is really able to compete. You know, in terms of just like raw, I made a knife-shaped object, very often they're getting outbid. But when they're using their stable of really good designers, like John Graham and like others, and targeting these price points and making knives that are able to be made very well for $25, you know what? You can get pieces like this that feel like not only is this a very good price point, but it's a very cool design, and that makes this even more compelling than it otherwise would have been, and makes me a little bit more forgiving for the little nitpicks that I'm going to bring about here in a bit. So, to me, what's great here is this price point. $25 is an incredible price point, and this is a knife that is done well for that money rather than being shoehorned into a lower price point. So, to me, that's what's great. On the bad side, I have heard some reports of variance in this guy, meaning that people take it out and it doesn't flip well or something like that. And so what I'll say is, if you take it out of the box and you're not getting clean deployment, it doesn't fire reliably, put it back in the box, send it home. Right? That's not acceptable even for $25. And unfortunately, you know, the competition is able to do that right at $25, so they need to be held to the fire there too. Hopefully, though, you know, reports are hard to indicate. So hopefully they're doing really well universally, but this one's great. But if yours isn't, make sure you get one that is. Next thing, a little nitpick, but they've got kind of a sharpening choil in here, but not quite. And even on the image on their website, the sharpening choil doesn't go quite deep enough to cover the plunge, so you get a little tiny bit of a smile on there. This is very much a nitpick, but the thing is, this is a fundamentally Wharncliffe style blade. And what that means is, as you are sharpening this guy, you very much want to have a flat surface on the bottom there, and that little bit of smile isn't ideal. You can wear that in with a Dremel pretty quickly. It's not a major deal. But I'd like to see them get that right, considering that the only thing that needs to change is just move this a little forward, right? Next thing, it's missing a couple of little Graham touches that I've noticed from other knives. For instance, it doesn't have the Graham pocket clip, which I very much like, where it actually, this is an example of the Graham pocket clip, where it hangs off the front of the knife. This seems really dumb, but in practice, it's quite compelling, and makes the knife very nice, so it's missing that. It's also missing, you know, I find myself preferring the sort of classical Razel blade with the vertical and the vertical here, not only because it feels a little less weapony to a lot of people, but because you get a little bit more utility out of the scraping, etc. So there's that, and also makes it no longer a Wharncliffe, a flat Wharncliffe there, which makes it a little harder to sharpen. So it's not the end of the world, but I definitely, there are other Razel blade instantiations I prefer a little bit more. And also one thing to note is that the way they've done this with the back sweep could in theory be referred to as a dagger, depending on, you know, how much your local police and or district attorney hate you. So do talk to a lawyer about that if that's a major law issue in your local area and you find yourself likely to be brought to task on it. So there's that. Next thing, this is Hcr13 Mov Steel. It's not written anywhere on the blade for obvious reasons, right? But you know what? At $25, okay, sure. You know what? That's fine. You got to like sharpening a little bit. For $25, though, no problem at all. And there's that. Next thing, centering on this guy. isn't perfect. It's not abysmal, but it's a little bit off towards the show side. But again, 25 bucks, don't care. Action on this guy, like I said, a little gritty. It's smoothing out a little bit over time as the bearings wear their race in. That's okay. But you know what? Again, 25 bucks, I don't care. Honestly, the biggest issue that this guy has is that it is a steel frame lock. And as a result, for a blade that is just a little bit over 2 inches, we are looking at 3.29 ounces. This is a heavy little knife. It's not huge. 3.2. Oh, see, in that case, I actually had my thumb on the blade, so that caused that to slow down there. But nonetheless, the 3.29 ounces, yeah, that's not ideal, just because it's a heavy little piece. But again, 25 bucks, it's not going to be a titanium frame lock, right? So, but that's really the biggest downfall to this guy. It's just that it's a little bit on the heavy side. So to me, all of that is the bad. It is a heavy knife. Action started off a little bit grippy. It's smoothing out some, gritty, that is, smoothing out some. Centering isn't quite there. It's Hcr13, but okay, whatever. It doesn't have some of the gram touches I've really liked in the past. They missed the Sharpening Choil. And hopefully they're all going to be good, but if yours isn't, make sure you send it back. On the ugly front, honestly, there's nothing really ugly here, so let's go to the final conclusion, which is actually, this is a surprisingly good knife. I've gotten scared at this point because I've been teased before. CRKT has this Razel, which, yeah, and then they put out this one, which, yeah, they've done this before to me, but so I got this guy and I was scared. I was afraid because I like the design. It's a nice little piece, but they did it right here. This wasn't budgeted to death. They did a nice size. They did some nice touches with a good texture, a fine blade, a reliable action, a great design, and a price that makes this a very easy buy, but without feeling like the knife was crammed into a very low price point, without feeling like there are major deficits there. They've missed a couple of little touches. The steel isn't amazing, although 25 bucks, whatever. The action could be smoother and it's a little bit heavy, but honestly, it's a really nice little piece. Because for this price, you can get a gram knife that is worth a damn. You can get a gram knife that you would want to carry. That feels like, this is actually good. This is a knife I could put in my pocket on a regular basis as a knife enthusiast and feel pretty okay about that. And so I'm really actually happy about this. It feels like CRKT has abandoned their prior habit of, sorry, what? Does anybody else hear crying? That's really weird. Hold on. What? Hold on. Oh, Shocky, what's wrong? The Shocky is sad here. This, of course, is the CRKT Shock. What's wrong, Shocky? What, you want a little brother? Well, you've got lots of knives around. We've got the CRKT Titanium home front. We've got... Oh, you want a high-end little brother? Well, with the home... Oh, you want a high-end little brother from John Graham? From CRKT? Yeah, Shocky, I know. It makes me sad, too. But sometimes life is about acknowledging that, well, CRKT hasn't yet made a high-end John Graham Razel-style folder. Sometimes life just isn't fair, Shocky, and we need to learn to be okay with that. Of course, I know that your sadness would go away in an instant if CRKT were to make a high-end Razel folder from John Graham using their new capabilities they've demonstrated over and over again. But I know that would make you happy again, Shocky, but we just can't count on them to do that right now. Either way, all we can do sometimes, Shocky, is dream. I know. It's okay, but let's just wipe that frown off of your face there, and we'll go back to our regularly scheduled review. But anyways, Shocky, thank you for stopping in and asking that question, and for raising a very, very valid point. Because honestly, see, there we go. He's back to happy again. Perfectly happy little Shock. Actually, no, he's not. He's still sad, CRKT. Make this knife happy. Anyways, emotional blackmail aside, really, this is quite well done. Put completely everything else aside, what they've done here is they've put a great designer's work into a bunch of pockets at a very nice budget price point, and they've done it in a way that feels like, you know what? Nice. Good job. Well done. So this is a knife I will absolutely be recommending. And I'm even going to go so far as to say, provided you get one with an action like mine, this is a gem. This is a very, very good instantiation at this kind of a price point of a design that definitely warrants some love. So anyway, CRKT, well done. I'm very impressed with this, and surely You want to make Sharky happy, don't you? Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. There, big guy. I'm sure they're hearing you. Bye now.